Okay, so pretty much all the Allied units in the first wave are landing. I put the boats over here so that I know that I have their access. I'm not quite sure. I've moved my actual landing forces, but I'm not quite sure what the hell to do with these commando units. And they look like they're Cs, which means they actually are real units. But I don't know if they're big enough to handle something like the Salerno force here. I guess I could look and see what a C is. So our red C is actually, it's a decent size. So I might be able to take Salerno with them, especially since I guess I have naval capabilities to throw in wherever I want. So I think I'll launch the attack here. Here, this big airborne unit can just grab Toronto, no problem. And I think that's why it, and then I can push out. I think that's why it doesn't have a, I don't know what the hell these are. These are turn 2 reinforcements, which are not put on the track. They're put over there for some reason, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm not sure why there's no defense at Toronto, but, you know, that's why they're set up as a complete big unit, because they don't need the time to recoup after attacks or whatever. But then I have to figure out my points. I have good weather, so there's no chance of any disruptions, I think. Zone of control 1. Zone of control is not, so, and you need a 7 or better. I haven't figured out my air points yet. I think I just get a pile of them, but I'm not absolutely positive. I'll come back a little later to try to cope with what's going on. It's going to take me a while to deal with this, just because the reticence when I face rules as bad as what I'm facing here, especially, you know, when I know how easily the game's rules could have been put together well, just because they could have just followed the example of the SPI set. And they kind of do in the initial rules, and then they just totally cock it up in the scenario rolls. As best as I can, I think I succeeded in finishing the first turn. These guys got damaged and thrown back. Over here, thrown back, thrown back. Actually, these guys succeeded, sorry, and took the hex. The U.S., damned if I know. I know I got thrown back here with damage. Here I think I just got pushed back, but I'm not positive. Yeah, because I think one of the units down here was one that landed there. That's using the naval advantages. I had like 1 air point available to me. If you look from 0 to 4, we get 1 Allied air point. We got 2 German air points available, but you know what? They can't use them on defense because they use the same air attack and defense numbers, as far as I can tell, that the Allies use, which kind of doesn't make sense, except like there's probably a lot of Allied air power, and they only get air points out to 6 airfields. As soon as the Allies have 6 airfields, the Axis is done getting them, so their numbers never get better than that. So it's not too bad a thing. I think I finished that first round, and now I guess we go to the Axis reaction move. And there are limited pieces that can actually move. I'm not quite sure where they are. The guys who got thrown out of their entrenchments, like these guys here, and these guys, do get to move. But I've also got some loose units, and I've got to go look that up and everything. So, you know, we're going to take this slow. We're not going to worry too much about it. Now wait, post-invasion build-up. I don't know. I thought that doesn't happen on the first turn, but I may be mistaken. Things that often gets lost when I first play a game, when I play the initial turn, whatever, is, you know, some of those initial choices at the very, very beginning. And so far in the Victory in the West system, and this comes off of it, I feel like those choices have been kind of important. In this case, I think there's one I ought to highlight, which is that the Germans withdrew everywhere where they got a retreat result. They didn't have to do that. They could have taken an extra loss or whatever. I think in every case it was just one extra loss, in order to slow the Allied landings down a little bit more, and also to get their bonus attack in. One thing that worries me here is the Allied support points are down to almost nothing because of the number of attacks they had to make. They've got basically one British attack, and the 8th Army has a support point, and 2 U.S. attacks available to still make, and that's it. So if I spend, say, an attack bringing both these guys up, that leaves me with nothing but a U.S. attack. And if I go, well, actually I've got, one British attack. I could keep attacking and drop my support points below, but there are disadvantages to doing that. Now looking at the German units here, this is such a pain in the fucking ass because this doesn't go all the way up the parent division. This is the 179. I've got to take a loss on one of these 2 units because of the retreat that took place. By the way, that would have just been destroyed. I flipped over the infantry company, as it were. Now, in order to create this is it turns out that this is the 79 of the 16th Panzer, which has special rules. For its 2 regiments, each regiment will need 1 infantry battalion, 1 infantry company, and 2 anti-tank or tank companies. Well, I have no fucking clue what I have, right? So I'm looking at the 79, and I don't know what else. Like that's a tank, but I don't know that that's actually associated with it, but let's assume it is. So there's 2 companies. There's got to be a battalion somewhere. That looks like a battalion. It doesn't have a unit number, though, unless I flip it over. So that's 264. That's not the 79. That's 164. That's not the 79. I don't know where the rest of the 79 is. I've got 2 companies for the 79. That's 64. That's a battalion. There's 279. But this is 179. Is that good enough? I think so. So I can actually lose this and keep the armor. And I'll put this aside as my loss. I hope I didn't flip anything else over that didn't actually have a strength point to flip. I don't think I did. This might have. That's a battalion. Really should have the unit designation on it, on the back side. I hope they have it on these guys because nope. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with the way this is presented. Yes, I know they tried to fix some things. I'm also finding it very difficult to discern the differences in the terrain. Again, my eyes aren't the greatest, my light's not the greatest, but I had not a single fucking problem with the SPI games. Let me exchange that. I had not a single fucking problem with them before Sicily, and I had difficulty reading the unit designations. But the maps to those were pretty clear. Sicily, I had a little bit of trouble because of the colors I had to refer, and when you go to 6 layers of map, you make the game much harder. Well, here, these numbers, I don't know if they really help. Like, this is level 6, I guess down here's level 5, But I really have to zoom in to get any information of what I'm doing. And it's prettier, but it's not as effective. And the complexities of Sicily were already stretching, my happiness with coping with things, trying to make the map prettier to make it a little bit harder to deal with, didn't seem like a fair trade-off here. A lot of action on the Axis side. First of all, I can't move many pieces here. These could barely move. They're not allowed to use strategic movement, I don't think. I don't fucking know. Thought there was a restriction on it, so. And these sliding their way down. One of the problems is the special rules in this game are spread out throughout the specific rules for the game. Now, okay, but shouldn't the specific rules all be special rules? No, because they fucking copied tons out of the original base rules and just made this, any section that basically modified that is just copied over into here with a few little changes instead of kind of inserting. It would be much better if either there was one rule book, or if they want to go with the series rules, follow the normal standard way of doing things and say, here are the special rules for this game out of this series. The series rules are actually pretty tight comparatively. All right. So now I guess the Allied second wave landing comes and we get to drop more units into play. And again, I'm just kind of doing guesswork as to what's going on here. Okay, now I'm finding another problem. So I forgot to bring my reinforcements in for the Germans. Map A, they get the one Hermann Goering Panzer roads A and B, and I have that here. A and B, I guess that's any of these letters, and I can pull that into play, and I'll do that. But then I have the 1529 Panzer Grenadier, 129-29 Recon, and 4-1 Fallschirmer are released. That is the special rules for them. They're released. They don't come on the board. Okay, because I thought I was looking for the units, and I'm like, fuck. No, those are the units down here on map C. Now, I think everything on other maps is released. It's only map C that I can't move units for. Because the rule that said it said map C, but it's not presented quite that clearly, so it might have been that these are the only units on the entire board that can move, and it sort of is. Okay, so I've got to bring him in, and I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Because the movement costs are all very high on this, so like tactical movement in this on a main road for mechanized units is 3 points per, so that's 369, boom, there we are. I thought there was a restriction on strategic movement. Let me check that, because if there's not, these guys could move faster. I was wrong there. Strategic movement is only restricted on the Allies, so these guys get to slide up a little closer. I don't know if I really want to get much closer with the Fallschirmer. It's a pretty big unit. I don't remember if red or blue is better. I knew the answer before. I think red is better, so whatever. Well, they might get a surprise. I could not move any faster using normal movement, strategic movement. I could get 1, 2, 3, 4 to here. Let's get a little closer. Okay. And then I got Hermann Goering here. I had a little bit of trouble with my shifts over here. Ended up leaving a bit of a hole here, but that seemed better than leaving the artillery exposed. And we're on to 1B, which is the other half of the movement phase, and the second wave landing, and what else? Good God, I don't know, but okay, the reinforcements are listed here, but they're already pre-programmed. I don't think there's any 1B here. Good. All right. For victory points, because this is only a company, I'm just going to take a look at this. Each full-strength combat battalion eliminated, with 2 companies equaling 1 battalion. Looks like I need 5 of them. I'm not sure what this 5EA is supposed to be, but that's the only way I can see it to get to a point, which means I'll need 10 companies to get to a point, essentially. So I got to keep that kicking around to see what happens. I think that's what the EA means. I got no airborne units here. I don't know if there are any in the game. There's a wind and there's rules for it. I haven't seen any, so we'll leave that alone. I mean, I got airborne here, but they're not landing, as far as I can tell, by airborne procedure. They're landing into the port, which they're allowed to do. And speaking of which, we forgot to drop this into Salerno, or Toronto, and I don't know if he wants to go any further. He, in fact, couldn't have moved last turn, or else I couldn't bring the port in, and I don't know. He'll just sit there, I guess. I don't really want to get plugged in there. We'll sit nearby. hoping that no German units are stuck down there in the boot or could get around. I've got a couple of attacks. The U.S. don't have many support points, so the U.S. is going to launch attacks in both of its squadrons, and the Brits are only attacking here. I could probably move this up, I guess. I don't know. Gives me more of a defensive position. I mean, worse of a defensive position. Can I move that far? 2, 4, 6, yes. Okay. Yeah, and we'll see what the attacks go with. I'm using a monitor over here because these guys are far enough away that I need heavier guns to reach them. And I got a monitor here as well, but those are my only big ships. Let's see what the fights bring me. And it looks like the Allies are pretty much successful. The support points have all been used. I think I've captured an airfield, which is why I have this. Okay. I was kind of lucky that they were all successful and unlikely, but it's what happened. And now it's the German turn, and I gotta look. I think these are released now. I don't know what the fuck. A whole bunch of stuff I gotta keep my mind on, like these abilities to blow bridges and shit like that. The naval gunfire, I know that creates rubble. I've been forgetting about that. You know, just all this shit that a lot of chrome that's been added to the system. I don't think it adds much to the game. It's sort of like the wrong details, you know? The OCS goes in and grabs certain things and says, you know, we want to focus on supply. This seems to say, here's a little bit of additional chrome they didn't think of. Let's throw this in, you know, as opposed to some kind of overriding principle that fits an overhaul of the design. I think the game should have probably stayed with the old system more or less, rather than add a whole bunch of new things, peeling the engineers out, kind of stuff like that. Just let's leave it more abstract. Question: I'm not sure what the size of this unit is. It is a tank thingamabobby. It doesn't have a size classification on it, so I don't know if it's nothing or if it's a battalion. You know, the old game used the NATO symbols, these little tanks on it. Okay, fine. You know, at least give me a size. So now I have to look here and see if it's called anything. And gosh, cleverly, it doesn't look like they even gave an image for their armored components to tell you what the fuck they're supposed to be. Yep. Fucked if I know. I think that's the end of the line for turn one, to tell you the truth. The Germans withdrew, but they don't have to withdraw everywhere because, you know, we don't have to counterattack or anything like that. The end of next turn, I hope to be able to build units up. I may not be able to, just because things may not be close enough together. It's too complex a thing to figure out which units go with which still, because the color coding is not on these composite units. I can kind of understand the reasoning for that, but it would be nice if there was something to tell me what goes with what. The Goering Division or regiment decided not to attack. I'm gonna call these battalions because somewhere in the game intro it says the scale is battalions and regiments with some companies for the initial landing sequence. Well, these are clearly not regiments, so I guess they're battalions. So I have 1.5 towards that 5 that would eventually get a victory point. And we don't know what we're doing, but you know. And I mean, we don't know what we're doing tactically either, to tell you the truth. And it's kind of the same problem I have with the Sicily game. Was I faced that and just did not know, you know, what the victory conditions are. Here I kind of know, but I just don't feel like I have the capacity to launch some kind of counterattack or something. I got these guys coming up in the front. I think I can destroy the 8th Army with them. I'm not sure. Moving into turn 2 here. We had a little bit of weather, a light mistral coming. I decided to write this up. It lists all of the kind of turn information I was able to distill from the rulebook. And now following this, okay, well, bookkeeping segment or phase, the allied segment, they get their, we count up some stuff, see how much support they have, etc. There's no axis segment for the bookkeeping. I assume that's a mistake. That puts this in a slightly different place than the Victory in the West games did. Well, Sicily in particular, where support was actually calculated during the player turns. So that was actually kind of weird, but anyway, I generated the support points. Now, each, the Fifth Army basically has 2 depots, one British, one US, and they record them, they each get, they're going to have just 1 attack. That's it. I can't see how we're going to do much with that, but okay. I mean, otherwise, we start losing, you know, all kinds of advantages. So that makes getting the ports kind of a priority. That won't give us a lot. These are each minor ports. They'll give us 2 extra, 1 extra point each. So we'll be at 2 attacks with each force. But these forces aren't that big, so that's okay. The 8th Army, on the other hand, has a major port that just falls into its hands, and it's generating points, and the Germans are generating points as well. Maybe I'm missing something. Wouldn't be surprised. And now we get to this. Consults the air missions. Stages for the landing of eligible paratrooper or glider missions are pre-planned landing zones. There is nothing. Rule 20 doesn't talk about where these pre-planned landing zones are. There's nothing in the reinforcement section about it. I don't think you can paradrop in this game. Now, again, maybe some of the variable scenarios allow you to use paratroopers, but as far as I can see here, there's no rules for it. Maybe I can paradrop some of these units if I so desire. I don't see any real reason to. I think paradrops are a really shitty thing to do in this system. They're just so dangerous. I hold the idea out. If there's a line that I have to break or something, slipping behind it might help. But in general, I would rather just land the troops by sea. So I'm going to grab my reinforcements, which there are plenty, and that's coping with the reinforcement chart, which is painful, and see what the Allies can do. Okay, there's not a lot of 8th Army down here, so I'm sending a battleship slowly over here. These folks over here, launching an attack on the Fallschirmer. I have a lot of weight there. I'm hoping to be able to bust that thing up. Over here, the US making its 1 attack over here. Now remember, I don't have to attack in this game. My intention is to hit over here. And we'll put a monitor over there just so the artillery can't shoot back at me, basically. Because they have better range, etc. Notably, I'm not attacking Salerno again. I thought about doing it with these guys, but I think my most effective attack is to swing in from this side. So let's bust that entrenchment up. Now, I think whatever that special first turn attack with the entrenchments is just gone at this point. The Germans can't do that. And our limited amount of support means this is really all I can do. Because of what amounts to a limited number of attacks that we can make, we're pretty damn successful. Bust into there, and push these guys back. Those blues are looking better than the red, but I only pulled 1 red so far, so I don't know. This thing was an 8, which is kind of on the low end of the blues I've been pulling, so maybe the blues are better than reds. I don't know. Certainly was counting on it the other way. Spent support everywhere. We didn't get any freebies, which means I'm still going to be in kind of a painful position here. I took this port and get the Americans down there, but they've got a port demolition +2 on there, which I think that means, so it's weird, this says 2-turn delay, but I think it's actually a +2 modifier to this die roll, which makes it difficult to repair. And then I don't know what the hell this counter is for. I still don't know. I don't know why there's only 1 pack transport when you're allowed 3. It's shit like that this game kind of really doesn't work for me. It really feels like there was not sufficient development and playtesting work on it. If somebody was given this final product, you know, not printed yet, but this final product with a facsimile of the pieces, not playing on Vassal, where who the hell knows what they've done to make things better, you know, the paper rule book, the map as it is, etc. I don't think this could have gone to production, you know, but pretty sure MMP doesn't listen to me. You know, I know some designers and developers and you know, and even company owners do sometimes, and they're kind of like, yeah, you know, you got some interesting points, man. and some of that stuff definitely goes to heart. You see the companies that I've had people come up to me and approach me and say they do listen to it. They don't need my help. I'm looking at things like Revolution Games. You know, I know he listens to me. He likes the point of view, but his games are produced. You know, he does significant development on those things. But this was released too early, and it's not the first time. I mean, think of Lincoln's War. You know, the fiasco of that. But maybe MMP has turned itself around. I know Compass is doing much, much better, and they didn't impress me to begin with, so who knows. But I'm very tempted to let them sit for a while until somebody tells me, yeah, MMP's turned their game around. They're actually printing decent games. They have decent developers in place. Just because I've been burned too many times on the stuff outside the gamers. And again, I don't know about the ASL stuff. I can't imagine that they do this kind of slipshod work on that. For another contradiction here, it says at the end of each game turn, starting with game turn, both sides enter a special build-up phase. However, post-invasion build-up is actually baked into the player turn. Is that what they say? They say game turn, not player turn. Again, you know, I'm going to say the sequence of play is right, but who knows? Who knows what they actually intended? All right, for this, all regimental and brigade members shown as assault battalions removed from the game. Replace these with full and half-strength regiment and brigades. Okay, we got to be 5 hexes of one another to try to do this, and I got to try to hunt down and get the pieces. And let's see what we can do. All right, I was able to find 4 sets of assault units that turned into big units. Now, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing by building these up, and these were all uninjured. Now, I go to this other one, and here I have the 128-46. Now, I have 2 units of what I think is the 128 here and here. I cannot find a 3rd unit of it. I have not lost any allied pieces. There are no more assault units coming in. I may have missed something, or maybe there's something not on the board. All I see here is 1 paratroopers. Could I have lost a piece somehow? You know, in a game I never played before, maybe. It's not like I just punched it. It was quite a while ago. Let's see what came in. Let's try to figure this out again. So I've got, what are these? These guys are things like the 5H128. So let's see. Here's 5H128. Okay, I don't have any more here. If I go back here, I have the 4H and 2H128. So I was supposed to get 3 in. I've got the 5H and 2H. I don't know what the fuck happened to the 4H. It ran all the way over here, too far away. Oops. So I guess I can't bring that in yet. I'll leave that kicking around there. Yeah, you've got to be within 5 of each other to do it. And one of the dangers in this game is if units that are supposed to stay together don't. Now, here's the problem. This leaves me with units that I don't know what the fuck they're all about. So first of all, I have all these 82nd Airborne here. They weren't in the reinforcements or anything that I saw. I have the 3rd Division for the U.S. I have no idea where that's coming in. I mean, I have no more assault units. Nothing else is going to get built up. They did not show up in either the variable reinforcements nor in the regular reinforcement scheme. Again, maybe they're in some other scenario. Not that I know of, though. The way the scenarios are written, it doesn't look like it. For the Brits, well, I've got these 1 paratrooper units. Those are assault units for that, which aren't, allowed in the scenario. But I also have the 78th Division here, which again, I have no assault units for, and it doesn't seem to come in. And then I have these things, which I think just show up as guards for the depots and ports when you get them, and I think that's supposed to be there. I don't know. It's listed Depot Toronto. I don't know if that's supposed to be the Toronto unit gets placed when that comes in. Who the fuck can tell? But yeah, this is kind of the problem. Likewise, this paratrooper, no rules on it. These things, well, these variables, I guess, probably belong with the variables, but I didn't see them. But these engineers here have no designation whatsoever. Mystery pieces, the game just comes with mystery pieces. I will look to see if I'm missing something in the setup, but fuck, man. So goddamn annoying. That appears to be the case, that these are for the alternate scenarios. So for example, 82nd Airborne seems to show up in most of those, and it doesn't show up in this. These are just like, I think, additional troops that come in here. You can see the 3rd, 33rd Infantry, whatever. You can see units that were not present in the base scenario are showing up. So those are, I think, additional units for scenarios where the Allies commit more force or whatever. Another problem I have is I still can't fucking remember where Foggia is. Did I find it? I found it over here. Yeah. Okay. Because it's rather important in the game. There are special rules relating to it. Okay, I think I'm done with the Allied turn. The only screw up that I had then is letting these guys split apart too much. I'll have to get them together to where they can come into range and form together. And I don't know how I'm going to manage to do that easily, because I sent the fucking forces on my main spearhead that are part of this, but this guy's like going to have trouble catching up without creating a hole in the line, because he's kind of guarding against this shit. But that's personal problems, not the game itself. I just have a hard time keeping units together, and since there's no divisional integrity for these assault units or anything like it, there was no real impetus to do anything about it, and I didn't think too hard about what was happening. So I think we're on the Axis side. In terms of the Axis losses, looks here like I have 1, 2, 3, 4 brigade-size units and battalion-size units, and 1 company-size unit. So I'm a half point away from getting my first victory point from that. But I should have a victory point from this. I'm never going to be able to keep these counts right, and that's going to be a real problem, because this isn't just points on the map, it's the losses too. I can try to, and other effects and impacts, things like bringing in support points and everything. I think it would be easier to keep track of it on paper than use it on the track. It was, it's nice to give me the track, but it's not supported enough to actually work. Then again, I don't know if I'm going to finish this sucker. I just don't know. I know I have an airfield. I don't know if I have 2, because I thought I took one early, but there's one somewhere up here, this guy. And I don't know if that's the one I took early. It may well be. Looks like it. All right. So I got some new Axis units coming in here. This 26th Division. I'm trying to ship this up north. I feel like I have a lot of firepower up here in the south. Enough to cope with the whole of the 8th Army as far as I can tell. I don't know. I mean, there may be more coming in later. But right now, that looks pretty puny, and I think what I've got can hold it into place. I don't know if this is the whole division. 26 Panzer Grenadiers. There aren't any more there. There might be some buried in here, but for defensive purposes, they can help each other. Offensively, I suspect that it's just 2 units, so I'll give them the shift. There really should be some kind of discrimination to indicate how many units are in the major formation. This is a problem with the Victory in the West system, as well as this upgrade for it. Even if it's just a sheet with all the units listed on it, you know. Over here, pulling back a little bit, and I pulled back here as well. One thing I had to notice, remember there's a disengagement cost in this game. It only counts if you're in a zone of control, which means you've got to be near a big unit. But it's half your movement points. It makes it very hard to get away from the enemy. And so you can see I'm still kind of in close range. Hermann Goering, of course, launched an attack. It wasn't bad odds, like 3-1, but he took a damage from it and a retreat, which, you know, plus a support point. Why? Well, I've got a required attack, you know, before turn 6, so I want to get that out of the way. And it looked like good odds, you know, an full strength A versus a half strength C. I should be able to do that. At an air point, I actually succeeded in getting that. And no good. So that puts us, let's see, that puts us to the point where I have to decide what I'm doing with these. Now, 79th got whacked pretty hard. And I don't think there's much left of it. I think that unit's part of the 79th. But I think that's it. Oh no, there's one up there. Are we within 10? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So I don't think we can form that. The rules for formation of these things is kind of weird, though. The German 16th Panzer has a different makeup. Each regiment will need 1 infantry, 1 infantry company, 1 infantry battalion, and 2 anti-tank to build up to full strength. But I think it still eats all the units. And they all have to be within range of each other. Which is kind of important because I have too many units for the 64th to build up to full strength. So maybe I don't want to build that either. On the other hand, I'm not sure I'm within 10. I don't know. You know, and then like there's things like this that'll be off on their own if I do that. So I think I'm going to leave the 64th alone too. I'm not sure if I have more strength this way, but I cover more ground, and that's kind of important. It seems to be an optional thing to do, and I have to figure out how to get the rest of the 79th over here so I can get a half strength unit there. And I think if I'm down to like 1 unit, it's still a half strength unit, because unlike the Allied, I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken there. All the company-sized units, maybe the only units that start the game will not be removed are the artillery, engineer, and the following formations. Okay. These might be part of the shit that's up there. I just don't know. You know, they spell out which things should be left on the board. Fucked if I know. You know, the game is just so painful in terms of trying to figure out what organizes into what, and I really hate everything that has been added to the system in terms of not that, oh, these are horrible ideas, but that they're implemented so poorly in the rule book. And yeah, I've said it again and again. My bitchies are yelling. Yeah, I mean, I could create the 64th. Do I have to? they may enter a special build-up phase. Now, somewhere else, there was something that kind of implied that maybe they have to. But yeah, here, the 16th, each regiment will need one of each of these in order to build up a full-strength regiment. Less than those results in a half-strength regiment. Now, somewhere we have something that says it ends up as a cadre. If only one unit remains, it turns into a cadre. So for the 79th, I'm not really in that big a hurry to get it together. It's got, well, maybe one more unit it can lose. I'd like to get it together, but these guys are just having too hard a time getting close to these guys and whatever. And I may never, simply because trying to figure out what's what when counters flipped over don't have a unit designation and shit like that is just ridiculous. They really did a horrible job implementing this one. So the port demo rules are just really fucked up. It almost feels like they mashed two things. Roll one die to determine whether it's been affected by demolition. So delay result means the allied player must wait that many turns before waiting for repairs. That's what we have. Now, after any waiting period, a repair die roll sequence must be followed. Port repairs must be successful. Each port repair costs 1 support point from the army attempting repair either, and you'll drop this marker. But I think I've got a 2-turn delay on top of that 2-point marker. What also is not said is when Salerno starts all scenarios with a port marker 1, even though it's not captured. Toronto does not roll a demolition die roll unless recaptured. It's not clear to me, this is poorly written. Now, I had someone pointed out to me, let's put this in here. I don't know what the fuck this means. Does it mean that if the Allies capture Salerno, it's automatically got a +1 on it? Or what? And does the delay come in play as well as this penalty? I just really don't know. Because this is like repair die roll, repaired, automatically repaired, right? But each port repair attempt costs 1 support point. Either remove the port demo +1 or reduce the 2 to 1 if there's no port. I feel like this rule is just like a mishmash of two rules that were intended, neither of which actually actively got written. Anyway, what I was saying is, it turns out there is actually something kind of like an errata. There's a giant rules clarifications and questions type document. By giant, I mean it's like 5 pages. Now, that's for, there's a cover on this, what amounts to 17 pages of rules. So about 30% of the rules had to be rewritten as question and answer. It's not like, it's not like the rules in here, a lot of these are duplicates of that. So basically everything that was added to the game, I'm pretty sure, had to, for the specific rules for this, everything that was actually added took up at least as much space in the questions and answers to describe as it should have. I'm just going to fudge it. I mean, I feel like I have a way of playing this, and I'm just going to play this. These markers, I'm going to roll as if this is +1 and +2, and, maybe it succeeds, maybe it doesn't. What does that mean? First attempt +1 to 2 repair. I mean, because the plus markers don't make sense, and they're described as having an impact on the chart and everything. None of it really makes sense as written, and I'm just going to fudge it as they go. Somebody else pointed out that, oh gee, the vassal module has these charts handled correctly without breaking them into hexes. Well, that's bloody fantastic, isn't it? Maybe MMP should go into just producing computer games since they can't get the physical game correct. there's no doubt that people can make, that people working on the Vassal with the act of love involved in that and everything might do a better job doing that for free than, the designers that they pay who maybe don't really understand the game, right? Quite often when you pick out an artist for a game or whatever, they don't necessarily understand what the implications of it are. They're probably not involved in the playtesting and the development and the design of the game. So somebody on the design side has to look at it. It has to be play tested, etc. Now, the play testing listed here is done on Vassal. I mean, if you're not playing with the physical components that they're intending to give you, yeah, there's a problem, man. And the Allies are going to continue their incredibly limited number of attacks here because they're only, they got one division and they can pick off the Fallschirmer there. Too bad for that thing for being nearby, It closed thinking it had a chance and it doesn't, and now it's running away. And then over here, trying to get our way to Salerno, where I guess there's just an automatic +1. And down here, I'm trying to clear out one German stack there, because basically I have one attack on each of these. Over there, I have many, many more support points. But now I'm a little worried when we start getting a lot of airfields. I think the German support points are going to go below 0 very quickly, which means that they start suffering from some serious problems. Now I have to make sure of that. There may be an exemption in this rule set where they don't go below 0 from those die rolls, but in both Sicily and I believe the standard combat rules for this, that works that way. So it would make sense to me either way. I managed to shift my assault units over so that these are going to recombine after the combat. And success all across the board. We beat those up. Push these guys back. Destroyed this. This was a breakthrough attack, so we actually didn't lose our point there. And we got to recombine our unit. And so now we've got that whole unit gathered up here. Of course, kind of created a vacuum, but I planned for it. I kept a unit of the 79th here alive, losing a bigger, maybe not that one, but a bigger unit in losses, because I think I at least get something other than a cadre out of it by doing that. I can't be sure because I don't know who's what when counters don't have their numbers on them, and pawing through to try to find out what's there, flipping things over. I think I've got 279 units, but I don't know. Maybe I'll resurrect that anti-tank unit but it may just not matter because maybe I have enough units. It may be that I just need 2 units. I don't fucking know. I just really don't fucking know. The recombination for the Germans just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I don't know if I can slip one of these units in, or if they're part of the recombinations or what. It's just such a painful setup. It gives you some flexibility, I think, kind of, but it does not designate who these specific units attach to, the tank units. But they disappear into those mechanized units somehow. And it's just so troubling. So anyway, that gets me over to the Axis turn, and we'll see what I can possibly do. It feels like there's complete chaos, and, I don't have a really great grip on what the rules are intending to say. I'm not going to read through 5 more pages of rules explanations for this shit. I'm just going to hope for the best and see what comes out. But, if it had been published with those 5 pages, maybe instead of this book, maybe it would be reasonable. Who knows? Yeah. I think this is the last time I buy something straight from MMP that's not a gamer's game. The other thing, I've collected up 5 of these counters to count as a victory point. I'm keeping it up there. I recorded the victory point over here, but this will allow me to reconstruct the victory points if I keep piles of dead the count, which of course is separate from units that get absorbed. So it's not like I can just look at all the units that have been taken out of the game. They're two separate kinds of things that get removed. And, you know, Sicily had its little withdrawal boxes or whatever, which worked kind of similarly to recombining in terms of they don't count towards your victory points. So you had to track them that way. But it had little boxes to keep things in. Fallschirmer could not get very far away, spending half their movement points. They'd move 6 points to move out of the hex, and then moving on a, I think, secondary road gets me to 9. I could move another hex back. You know, I can't really defend myself there, so I'm flinging this armor up into place. I may have gotten some of the movement rates confused. I'm having trouble between maps A, B, and C in terms of remembering that this pays more for movement and this pays less. These guys starting to come on. In fact, that movement point rate and trying to figure out, you know, the strategic, just the getting used to the chart more than anything else, caused one of these units to be not in the thing early. So now they're both in the waiting box at the same time, whatever. Here we're isolated, can't do anything. I decided to pull the forces out there and bring them around to this side. I'm not going to be able to defend this part of the world. There's no reason for the Allies to withdraw from the map in this scenario. Of course, the Germans don't know that. In a sense, the Allies should get to pick which scenario they're playing, you know, because if the Allies started sending troops up here in the historical scenario, it doesn't do them any victory points or anything, but if they start sending them in some of the others, it does generate victory points. Of course, they probably want to do some stuff on the field as well and not just have their units withdraw from the board at this point in the game. So I don't know how big a deal it is to give them the chance of that. Plus, I don't know specifically which hexes they'd have to withdraw from for the casino line scenario, for example, or one of the other scenarios. They do have to maintain a line of supply to wherever they withdraw from, I know that. And we got this interesting little thing. This is a Nebelwerfer. There are no special rules for the Nebelwerfer. I think it's just treated like normal artillery. It's listed as Nebelwerfer artillery. At least none that I remember. By pulling a couple of tanks over here, I had enough units to get the entire 79th together, I think. By what I can understand of this system. And then over here, I've got a little bit more than I need, so I'm still holding off on building that unit. I'm going to let the Allies kill one more unit while I'm spread out and able to defend more territory. These extra units coming in from here should help me, you know, hold the line a little bit better. But I'm you know, if I convert to the big units, I basically have, 3 big units here, 4 or 5 that make up this entire, to defend this entire map with. That's not sufficient, and that's why I'm sending this division over that way. This has Fallschirmer. I want that to support this if I can, you know, if I rebuild it. I've got a Fallschirmer over here, but and he's part of the first Fallschirmer, but I got no way of bringing him down here easily anytime in the near future. However, maybe I can rebuild and reconstitute that into a more useful force, but maybe I don't want to. I'm pretty much willing to give up the south, but I'd like to slow that down as much as possible, you know. And I think that's it for turn 3. Now let me look at my cheat sheet and make sure. Yeah, there was nothing special for turn 3. Turn 4 is, I believe the Allies can leave map A, and the variable reinforcements get dealt with. Alright, well, we got time for one more turn on this video. 4th turn, the weather's good. Unfortunately, I started moving some of the Allied forces, but no biggie there. I remembered I got the variable reinforcements to deal with. So I rolled 2 dice. I do not control Battaglia. I don't know about Altavia. I don't know where the fuck Moldavia is. It would be nice if they gave a hex number for these. But I don't control both. I don't know if I control neither. There it is. Okay. So I control neither, so that's a -1. And my airfield and victory points is going to come beneath 11, I think. My total victory points is 2. I've got like 1 airfield. So now the allies roll. And this is where things get kind of weird. And I get a 5. I get nothing. That's good. For the Germans, however, they also roll. I get a -1. I get a 9. That's nothing. So in 4 more turns, we get another shot. But chances are things will look a lot worse for the Germans than they do right now. This would have been the time to get some opportunity to bring more forces in. At a cost. All right, back to my movement. The Allies trying to take Salerno down. This, I think, automatically clears itself up. This is the 3rd attempt. Again, I don't know how the hell to interpret all that. The Brits are actually taking 2 attacks. They're taking 1 here and 1 on that city. I figure if the Germans are going to spread that unit out, let's start eliminating parts of it, since we do have 2 attacks available to us. And then the U.S. only has 1 attack available. I'm sending part of this division over to cope with the fact that I hear there are German troops coming this way. It's going to take them a while to get here, longer than they should. And the Brits are going to try to wipe out the Fallstrom over there. Now, what's really fucked up here is the victory points that go for eliminations. I'm not going to be able to completely track them by the pieces that are eliminated. I may need to rely on getting this victory point chart right all the time, because this could be rebuilt from its ashes. And I don't know what I'll do if that's the case. We'll just try to keep that in mind. Forces were again completely successful in destroying things here at Salerno. Remember, there's a +1 marker there. Again, I think that's just an automatic +1 instead of a +1 in addition to the whatever gets rolled. I'm not sure. We broke through here, and this is weak enough that I had better convert it soon. And this thing got battered pretty hard. I lost an artillery unit rather than losing what was one hell of a good A unit. Is that a mistake? I don't know. This was a 14 strength before, but it's reduced. But the thing is, if I go down to cadre, I've no longer got a zone and all kind of other stuff. It's hard to tell which is more important. I have a couple of artillery back here, so maybe I'm better off doing this. I don't know. And of course, we killed the Fallstrimmer. That gets our victory points up to 6 by my count. One nice thing about this, I don't have to worry about cadres. Eventually, cadres are going to cost me at the reduced level. They're going to cost me a victory point if a full unit's reduced to a cadre, which is about equal to, you know, the pile of battalions or whatever, right? But I don't have to track that as the game progresses. That would be really, really painful, and I'd be sure to make mistakes there. I think that puts us on to the Germans. When do I get this? Looks like Crotone has actually changed hands. So that's another Allied victory point and another airfield that I was not aware of. It didn't change anything here. Next turn I get to start declaring emergency bombing, actually, because Chris cost me victory points, but because I have not captured very many airfields total. I didn't count this, but I was worried I fucked up here, where the Germans would be able to slide along here. But the cost of doing tactical movement there is enough that I cannot reach Salerno and just cut the Brits off entirely, which is a good thing, because that would significantly skew the game. And the Germans ended up at the end of turn 4 getting a reasonable number of reinforcements into play, mainly over here. These guys coming in to aid over here. I've got the Panzer Grenadiers here, and that's it. I got this Fallschirmer unit. Geez, I don't even know quite what to do with it. It's sort of limping along. It finally made it to a major road. I may end up going back up here because I got the other Fallschirmer there, and just kind of give up as much of the south as is needed. I hope I'm not getting any more units in map C. We'll see. We'll see what the case is there. This has fallen, so I don't know what to do with that. Right now, I'm assuming that there's a line between the south map and the other maps. I'm not actually distinguishing that. I guess I got things like this I could put in down. Haven't really needed them because I have a pretty good feel. You know, the front line is pretty clearly distinguished right now, but it might get a little messy. There's a lot of open space, and you know, these guys, I got no breakdowns, I got no light units, nothing I can use to go scouting out, taking stuff. I'm gonna need to get something over there, I think, because my main force is kind of tied down facing their main force right now. If they pull out, that's different, but then again, I may not want the whole 8th Army, which right now is just this paratroopers going out hunting down, you know, victory points and such not. So I assume some troops are coming in, but it doesn't look like any Brits are coming in until there. So I may need some variable point reinforcements that I have to buy. What else do we have? I think that's about it. Pulled back here with that regiment or whatever. And then this one. So this one I actually managed to lose enough that I only have a half strength regiment. So it kind of worked out. Like, you know, I made a full strength regiment out of this one. Well, this one got battered enough, but I was at the point where it looked like I could survive and not take damage. I didn't have enough tank and anti-tank units to do it. And those component pieces are all bagged as opposed to being up here where they count for victory points. And yeah, I don't know what's going on. You know, I mean, one thing I can tell you is that I'm losing the coastal area, which means all these boats are going to become a lot less important. I may start sending them around to that coast. They probably want to head there anyway. I probably ought to have transferred this, but maybe a little behind the scenes on that. I guess this one's about a full video, so let's send it up. And you know, I mean, with all the trials of trying to get the thing to, you know, try to figure out how to set it up and how to play and some of the other aspects to it, it's still a fun system. It's still a fun game, you know. I never know what I'm doing in Sicily or in now in this either, because I go in between playing for so long. There's this indication that the Germans should be able to counterattack, and both of them, I find it very, very difficult to do. You know, I look at the forces on the board and I'm just like, shit, man. You know, maybe if I can snag something like this, but I had to reconstitute this unit. We'll see if the Brits get themselves overextended. Right now, they don't have a lot of support, but they managed to, again, get a breakthrough, so their 2 attacks only counted as 1. All right. Let's send this sucker up then.